Let's shoot on it Tuesday.
We're live. See you guys on the.
We're live.
Live.
Saturday night.
Yep.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's. Easier. It's, whatever is needed for you, so. You're, okay. Sure, that's good. Yeah, yes, I do. Yeah. How's my niece said on here? And plenty of else. Yeah, and then it was legal times. You can read switch it. And can't see it all the extras. Oh.
Called and I said, all right.
God, I hope not.
I had a conversation with Dan Farberman earlier, and I think we made our final adjustments to the S, D, and I salary schedule. We can sit down and show you. Because we did like side notes to tell you why we did what we did with some of the positions.
Okay, okay.
We can work there this today, tomorrow.
I got a public hearing at 3 at the
In the
town hall.
town.
Yeah.
So maybe,
Tomorrow, I'm gonna have to be late coming in. Yeah, but maybe between there, I should have the idea too. We'll figure something out.
yeah, because I said to them, we should really share some, because there were like anomalies that you couldn't get around on some of the positions, so we kind of made an executive session that sounded really good. Executive session. That sounded good to us, but I said to him, I would feel better about going like this, just sitting down and telling Becky why we did what we did.
Okay.
And I said, you and I use the same room, we can call it, he could be on the other side, he's got his schedules.
Yep, that sounds good.
So maybe he hasn't seen this, but 7% versus the other percent.
Like so much for.
But it was just a place Excel, because it all self-populated after that.
Okay, okay,
All right, sometimes we're on that.
okay, good.
Their first starting to do it. So it was proprietary, they liked it.
If I did, we can't. So join is on all the way around.
Well, that's really what it is, you know, state.
Upright and taking nourishment.
What's that?
Upright and taking nourishment.
Good as being this side of the grass.
Good way to be, yeah.
Yeah, that's good to see you.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I've seen Joe, and I've seen Lynn.
Yes, he's here. Joe.
You haven't changed the bit since the last time I saw you.
Yeah, it was a little longer. I think after this is all done, my ears are going to be permanently deformed.
There's gonna be new plastic surgeries going on.
Yeah, right.
Now, you know, the old days, all they did was take a little, knife to take and pin it back, you'd be okay.
Okay.
Seriously, okay. I haven't seen Brian Kell, but he's been on Zoom.
Oh,
Oh,
Well, we have a forum.
I was home this morning and had to zoom in.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah.
This is the January 26th Planning Committee 2022. I have Dan Wilbur, the chair. First item on the agenda is to appoint an individual to run the Untitled Chapter Business Workforce Development Board. And we have a nomination for Holly Mitchell, who is the general manager of TMP in Wyoming, New York.
She's awesome.
It was attached to your minutes or your agenda. And basically just kind of goes through her qualifications for the position. The first time we've appointed Holly. Nora Boost is the chair.
Holly is a great addition to any board she's on, so I firmly would support her.
Yep, and we talked about it on the WIP meeting.
Okay,
Really
good.
great addition to the board.
Yeah, she's great.
We can translate that into a.
I'll make the motion. Yes, I'll make the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, Holly, you're on the board. All right, next item is Mr. Perkins from the Water Resource Agency. Leave it up to you. Do you want to go through the reappointments or? Okay.
Well, the first item on there is a number of reappointments and/or appointments. The one-year terms, you can see those, Mr. Britt, Hoover, Cheryl Ketchum, and Sandy King. They traditionally are members of the Board of Supervisors, as well as the clerk to the supervisor. Every year they have to be reappointed. There are 2 3-year terms. We're asking for appointments. Shane Evans, he's currently on that board, has been on there for a few years now. He's, for those of you that don't know Shane, he's the village of Warsaw administrator. We work with him frequently on the water and sewer side of things. A new appointment for this year is Samantha Pierce. One of the seats was in the past filled by Terry Murphy, who represented the villages when Village of Perry, when the agency was first formed. In talking with Terry this year, he told me retirement was the best job he ever had, and he's finding he doesn't have time for the agency anymore. He truly enjoyed the time that he was on the agency. Terry contributed frequently, and a lot of good discussion came from Terry's comments. So as we looked at that position, that was a position that was sort of, I won't say dedicated, but we wanted to have somebody from that Perry community on that board. And Samantha Pierce is the village administrator for Perry right now. Very active, has a desire to be on the board. So that's why she's nominated for that position right now.
Steve, how many board members are there on the Water Resource Agency?
7.
I'm not opposed to any of these appointments. I just know in talking with Supervisor King, the one thing that she did bring up was when the agency was formed, there was discussion and talk about not making it heavily supervisor board members. So you have over almost a 50%.
Well, when you look at the supervisors too, especially Mr. Brick and Sandy, they have water systems, so that's kind of why they were on initially. We have the ability to expand that board if we want.
Okay.
But we just had that discussion at our last water resource agency, and we did want to have a lot of extra layer of supervisors on it. So we really carefully try to maintain the way it was organized.
I think that's what she had asked me to mention that. I think that was why she was hoping that maybe you could appoint a few
We can look at that.
non-double duty board
At
members.
our next meeting, we can bring that up. In the past, we had people like Mark Merrill and some of the those individuals on there.
Maybe keep an ear open for maybe some water operators
I'll look at
even.
our next meeting to see if there's a desire to expand the board in that direction to include more individuals.
I think she's looking for an exit plan, but I'm not gonna let her do that, but she just happened to mention.
I think, Vanessa, one of the things that we talked about was the, given the projects that are occurring in Perry, particularly as we move forward with the dredging project for Silver Lake,
Right,
it was important that we have some continuity in Perry, and that's why Supervisor Brick was important for that. I mean, he attends a number of those meetings.
oh, absolutely, and I think that since it's in sort of an infant agency per se, what, 10 years maybe now? That it's been around, I think that consistency is important. I think Sandy's concern was that we tend to be supervisor heavy on most of our boards across the county, and she was, I honestly think she was just trying to look to have an end date for herself, because she keeps telling me she's not running again, which I don't
I'll bring
believe.
that up at our next meeting in April.
Okay.
See if there's that desire to expand.
I think she brought up, though, there is a desire to put a water project in pipe. That's a campground.
Yeah,
And so, you know,
right, it's important to be at the table when you have those big projects.
have representation. Sure.
I mean, I've offered our water district to the Water Resource Agency as a, you know, a model to work with, but Steve won't take it from me for some reason. I
I
really,
never know, that may change.
you know, I mean, you could take over the Java Lake Sewer Project and, you know, get your teeth stunk in some real,
I thought I would see that before I retired.
it happened. Did happen.
Even though the last presentation, we had 90% of them.
Yeah, I
They
don't,
talked, they voted it down.
they're a different breed over there. They don't like it, don't want you to mess with their,
So I
Their program.
handed that baton to Ron Giants to finish up this back year. I don't know.
I'm sure he was happy about that.
So those are the appointments for this year.
And we want to confirm those appointments in this week.
I think we should, because then if, you know, the concern gets addressed, then somebody can step down or we can get into the board, whatever happens. I think we should move forward with what we have.
I'll make the motion. I don't have any problem with the board members that are presented. I just know that Sandy was hoping that we could add some water operators and
Okay.
more diverse.
From Supervisor McCormick to confirm the appointments to the Water Resource Agency as directors. Further discussion.
I think, you know, since we started, Dan, this list has considerably grown.
Absolutely.
We've created some interest, and the idea of this is back when we started it, we got some grant funding there. When Pat Brennan was here, and part of the reason was economic development, that we didn't have, you know, municipal water to certain areas, and that was our goal to get some of that done. And we've done some, you know, I mean, the Silver Lake Institute one, we had to change the name of it at one point in time in order to make it go through. But, you know, other interests have grown from this kind of thing. And Steve's done a great job as far as coordinating all those projects.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Those carried.
Well, the next point is under the operational update. I handed out a project opportunities. We're currently looking at every April, we'd like to basically January visit it, then approve it in April. So I passed this out just for your information. I want you to take a look at it. If you feel that there are projects on here that should not be on here, what your towns. Or if you think I missed something, let me know. And we will get that on for the listing for our next April meeting when we approve. So again, for information purposes now, but as you take a look at it, let me know if there's concerns or additions. They should be noted on here. Or maybe projects that I'm not aware of that you have started on the town level. It doesn't affect all of you, but the good majority of you have water systems. So take a look at that. send me an email, call me. So we can talk about it, but again, in April, we're gonna be taking this back to the agency board for approval. Sure. It's kind of, if you look at it, it's sort of spelled out. I won't use the word priority, but I sort of in that order. And if you think some of these should be moved up on the scale of things, let me know on that too. All right.
Just a quick question. Those that have the red are in process now.
Yeah.
Everything else is
That's sort of
anticipated.
giving you an update as to where we're at.
Okay.
Down at the bottom of the projects that we've completed
Mhm.
to date, that we started. The top four, you see the red afterwards, and that's really giving you an update as to where we're standing.
Okay.
So some of those will be coming off the list here shortly.
It's ambitious. Very good.
I will give you some project updates. Silver Lake Phase 3 was funded this year through ARPA money, $65,000. So we are in the process of meeting with our Patterson League, who was the designated. And we're planning out as to how that Phase 3 is going to start, when it's going to start, and what it's going to look like for this year. What that's going to accomplish is basically take this to where we're at, point to actually do the project. This is finishing up the engineering work, a lot of the details that need to be cleaned before we can go to project. So more to come on that, but we are starting that. Had a conference call yesterday on it. More to come in about 2 weeks as we continue on with that. We're gonna split it out. So it's our.
Oh, yeah, we budgeted it somewhere else.
Yeah, we originally got it in August, we budgeted.
Gotcha.
It was gonna be reimbursed.
That's
through
right.
the towns, but then we had our money. So now we can split it out. That's easy.
Is it that? I'll come back.
Any questions on the Silver Lake case? This is really finishing out. We should have been here a year ago, but as everybody knows, COVID kind of leave all that. But this does that final step to where we're actually ready to start applying for grant funding and monies to complete the actual project. The second item I want to talk about, the knee replacement grant. This is one of the 2 grants that we applied to the CFAs last July. We were awarded the grant funding for it. The initiative is a $270,000 project. We were awarded $243,000 of it. So basically, the towns had to match 10%, essentially. So it's paying 90% of it. There are 6 towns participating in it. The town of Perry, town of Warsaw, Covington Water District, Bliss Water District, town of Pike, and so once we get the paperwork and the grant documents here, get those approved and signed off on through the process that we want to do, we'll get started on it. It's anticipated, no should be showing shortly, either the end of January or early February. If I don't see anything by early February, I'll be reaching out to the Department of State to see what the status is, because there are timelines on that grant. And we have to have it completed by May of 2023. So we're going to want to get moving on here shortly. Another grant that we applied for, the waterfront revitalization grant on Silver Lake, was not awarded. About a month ago, we had a conference call with the Department of State, sort of a debriefing to see what the status was of that, and maybe some ideas as to why we weren't awarded. James sat in on that, Becky sat in on that call, as well as Jeff Smith. I think it was a productive call. We really got some good information. They've offered to assist us moving forward, as long as we take advantage of that before April, I believe, because after April, they can't have any. Once they open up some of the applications. So I'll be working with James and pulling James into that process because I fully anticipate this will be reapplied for next year. Really, the one, we were sort of at a disadvantage right off the bat because their hope was to provide most of the money to actual shovel ready projects. And what we were looking for was a study project, so we lost 8 points right off the bat. There was a limited amount of money. So that's one of the reasons. And James says, what he usually tells me is the first year you gotta get it. So you'll be having all of that going forward, but we're going to be meeting next week to really see how we're going to move forward with that study application and reaching out for the Department of State to get some additional guidance from them. A month and a half ago, I was contacted by Senator Schumer's office as part of the federal money that was awarded for infrastructure. He was reaching out to see what kind of projects we had in our local region and some of the dollar figures associated with that. We compiled a list, submitted it. His response was basically they want to be involved in those application processes. So as you are applying for money for water or sewer projects, let me know so that I can let Senator Schumer's know. We can appreciate his support of this. Those little things help as we look to try to obtain money. So please keep me in the loop as you're applying for funding for future projects. Again, for your water and sewer, just so I can let Chris know at Senator Schumer's office. I think that's a sort of a general update as to where we're at right now. Unless there's some specific questions.
Thank you, Steve. All right, next we have Amy Bragg. And I think that James, your report, was Cheryl, you did attach it to the minutes. So you have a copy digitally attached to your agenda. James has several things here.
Yeah, my apologies, just the universe wasn't kind to us this week, so we got this kind of late. In the future, you'll get this for anything that's a written copy. First of all, for our garbage totes conversion, this weekend, a postcard, one of the many is going to go out informing people of the conversion. It's scheduled to begin sometime in April. Also, on this postcard, the people will have the option of opting out to a smaller 64-gallon tote. By default, everyone will be assigned a 96-gallon. However, that's problematic. There is the option of the 64-gallon. They'll have to notify Waste Management before the 14th of February of that change. We're working with Waste Management to kind of get that word out to senior organizations, because that group is probably the most likely we want to have the smaller tote, smaller capacity. Broadband, the mapping.
Before you leave this,
Okay.
this is a big deal. And I anticipated, at least for my town, that we would get a lot of questions and comments. And I thought that when the contract was negotiated on, that there were some other provisions in there because one of the first questions that I received was, well, what happens if I exceed capacity of the tote? The answer is you're going to have to pay more, right? Correct. But I had thought that we were going to have some kind of a provision whereby individuals could go to your office and purchase, I don't know, tags, stickers, whatever. Yep. That would go on additional trash bags at whatever cost that would allow individuals or residents to put out more trash than what their container would hold. But that information was not necessarily communicated at this point.
No, not yet.
And the other thing was, is there's another provision in the contract that large item collection is now only once a month.
Once a month, yeah. So you have up to 3 large items once a month.
Okay,
They'll inform us of which weeks when I hit your particular municipality. So that's like more once we get these. You gotta get the tote thing out of the way first, so that there's thousands of totes they're gonna have to distribute. They wanna make sure everybody gets the size they want first, so that's priority number 1 on the notification procedure.
sure. I don't know, are we gonna plan on some kind of a broader communication?
Yep.
Because people get their postcard and just toss it.
Yeah.
They're gonna end up with 2 96-gallon totes,
Yeah.
which you can fit, 2-minute boy in, and they're huge.
They're supposed to put bags inside these totes.
Yep, whatever fits in the tote, you can put in the tote. You get one for garbage and one for recyclables, as much as you can fit in, you can put in it. There is no weight limit. So you can fill the thing up with cinder blocks if you want. So,
Don't tell people that.
I'm gonna try it.
okay.
Your carcasses, you name it.
Anything goes.
It goes, yeah. One of the beauty about going to the automated stuff is whatever fits in the tote goes. So you get one for each one. This gives everybody an opportunity to go to a smaller tote if need be. They wanted to offer that just because of the, we might have some elderly people that don't want to haul one down the road that's, 96 gallon one. Maybe they're only doing 1 or 2 bags a week, if that. So yeah, it might not make sense to have a large one. For the rest of you, that may make sense because there again, you can put so much in these and there's no weight limit anymore. We kind of look at this like our bulk item pickup too. The tote's big enough, kind of like we'd be able to fit your 5 bag in there a week, but probably some larger items too. So a lot of benefits to moving this, plus keeps our costs down. That was a big factor.
So when exactly is the plan to start this collection process?
We're working on the deadline when we're gonna actually start that pickup date, when we get the service. So first thing, we gotta get everybody back, get that list of totes, whatever size is gonna be assigned to your particular address, so that they get some, they've got time to get them here. And then they'll pick it, it will inform everybody in the working waste management when that distribution date is gonna start, and then we're gonna start our initial pickup.
They're kind of hoping too that the winter breaks, because when you have people that have spaces and what these.
Sure.
Snow could be problematic.
Oh, absolutely.
So you'll be getting 2.
You'll get to,
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll be pushing very heavily for our communication to residents. This is very, very important that this message.
We don't have it anyway, I'll bring it to your
And like
house.
you said, you just get one postcard, a lot of people just toss it, but I think.
Well, the recycling tote is big enough that you could throw electronics in. You check a couple of air conditioners just and think, so, we have to be clear about what's considered recyclable.
we'll still have our printout of the guidelines that you need to follow and what you put in there, hazardous materials and things like that. Obviously, you don't want to see stuff like that start to show up inside of it. But we understand that probably like it does now. I mean, even though we have guidelines printed out there, you still see the occasional TV sitting on the edge of the road and tires and everything else. So, just we got to keep moving ahead on that notification and still bumping out the guidelines.
Got it.
So that's scheduled to be going out this weekend. We will have a designated telephone line shortly and a email just for garbage.
Well, I copied your section of your report and sent it out to our board members, and then I had that little blurb in there with your phone number. When you have questions, contact.
That's why I'm here. And we're trying to get a new number, because as construction season begins, the codes, their lines, their communications can get really heavy. So I don't want to put an extra burden on them. So we're trying to get it live, because I suspect it will be the change is always difficult. I lived through this in Niagara Falls and 10 years ago. To this day, people still have bitter feelings. So that's why I've been very aggressive with Pat. We need to have a very effective marketing campaign with our residents.
With 15% of the county not having broadband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least.
It's more difficult.
Absolutely. The mapping by ECC Technologies has begun in our county. Shortly, these flyers are be sent out electronically, hard copy. We have a specified email address, wyomingcountybroadband.com. And that's important for a survey of saying how much do you pay, but even more importantly is it's the speed. Now, I know I spoke with the Public Service Commission, and well, we have a considerable amount of people who have zero access. I'm trying to get paper copies of that survey, which we seem to be reluctant to release. But it's important, we want to get as much of that as people to respond. Because again, not just what is your expectations for broadband, but it'll measure the speed. So we'll know where there's gaps, not just in service, but in speed. So Charter Communications did an estimate of a bill of about $21 million, which is a very shocking number. Luckily, though, hopefully, Governor Hochul has proposed for Connect All broadband with a budget of $1 billion. So the Public Service Commission and the ECC has said that they're very confident that our issues will be resolved. Unfortunately, timing is going to be the problem. This is not going to happen quickly. This is going to take at least 2 years before we start seeing results. It's very frustrating. I've been in touch with other, housing stopgap. There's AT&T has reached out about possible citizen broadband radio service, CBRS. A problem with that is it doesn't work in rolling hills. You need a flat area, and the speeds are somewhat slow. There's also low Earth orbit satellites such as Starlink. And we're very, very close to the beta service area for Starlink. Right now, it's servicing just north of Toronto, around Barrie, up to Algonquin Provincial Park. And the reviews of Starlink's performance has been off the charts. It's a little pricey, but the speeds, it's very fast and it's very reliable. So that might be a possible stopgap measure for us. Going on to the census counts resolution, we are working with the Genesee Finger Lakes, our sister communities, and doing a CQR. Specifically, ours is the post-census group quarters review. I've been able to isolate the issue within the town of Perry to census tract 9706, lot 3018. It's basically a cornfield that has about 900 people. So that should be helpful. And we believe it was inadvertently, the numbers were there were misallocated to Perry, that it's worth the missing numbers from the village of Attica. I've also been working with the Clean Energy Communities Committee of the Genesee Finger Lakes Planning Council. We are coming up alongside with Value Stack Energy to develop a strategic plan for EV charging stations in the county. What that will do is we'll identify locations and grant opportunities for making this happen in Wyoming County. There'll be no cost to the county. This Clean Energy Communities, they've vetted this group and they do the work on our behalf. So we're working on that.
When you say no cost to the county, who's going to pay for the electric?
Well, that's.
I mean, right now, you're paying for the electric.
That would be that. So how, that's a good question for you.
I would like to ask Janice that, you mentioned one time we get nothing out of this one over here from Charge Point, is that what it is? Because they put one in the village of Perry.
Yeah.
In order to put it in, the village asked the town if it could come off of our parking area, the Festival Plaza, because the power was there, because it was gonna cost them more to put in an extra meter. So we allowed, they said they would reimburse us for that. But if they're not getting any money out of it, and we're not getting reimbursed, yet the town's paying for the electric system.
Yeah, it's like $30 a month, $40 a month.
You know, I wondered.
That's the
about-
cost.
I wondered about that because the same thing is true on Route 36, the park and ride right there in Mount Morris. There are 4 charging stations, 2 poles. It is completely free.
Yeah.
There's no cost.
There's no cost for ours. Yeah. And there's no one ever there, and.
I
it's
saw
not
that
$30.
charging up there a couple weeks ago, first time ever.
You don't have to put a credit card in to make it work?
No.
I thought that's what it was supposed to be.
They're supposed to be.
Right, because I think
That was the way it was.
when we first talked about it, it was gonna be a credit card and we got a kickback
Yeah,
to cover the cost.
But no one.
that's ludicrous not to be charged.
Right, how did that
You can
happen?
go on Charge Point and run a report.
It was Daley's project.
We get a report.
For the points to do the solar thing, right? We had to do so many green points.
There is a cost.
It's in there. Sometimes it comes out.
Okay,
That's still any amount that she could charge her car cheaper at home than she could at the charging station.
when she was paying for it.
Yeah, but it's not, it's free now. It's
Now it's
cheaper at the
free, right?
station.
Well, I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Sure.
I thought.
So we must have pulled it off.
The individual user was still having to pay for it. but
Well,
now-
apparently Tess had to, and somehow it changed. If it's
No,
free
you don't
now,
have to.
okay.
We can send you, we can share those reports with you, Janice, you can see where.
No, I can go right on and get it myself, yeah. Yeah, I have a login.
Like, it doesn't get used a lot, we knew it, I mean,
Because I called once to say, where's our money?
yeah.
And they're like, oh, you don't have to.
Am I thinking that wrong? Was it discussed that there would be some sort of reimbursement from like a user fee or something on the credit card end? I could have dreamed it. It was, 6
You
years
used to
ago.
have to use a credit card, but now they're all free. I mean, I guess it was.
You have to use a card to go in there, you get charged, like I said, it's pennies. But you have to swipe so that you can get it unlocked.
Well, the one in Mount Morris, it says no charge. You just plug it in and away you go. There's not even a place to put a credit card.
Somebody's paying for it somewhere.
What is the
Was that a
Sure.
legislative change?
What is the cost for a
Was that a legislative change where we can't charge?
No, you can put any amount on it you want, if you want to charge, $3 a kilowatt, I mean, you can go ahead and charge, we would tell you cut the cost. We built it, he pulled a couple of municipalities to see what did everybody charging, because he goes, we got an option, what we charge, 5 cents for an hour, or we charge $5 for an hour, he goes, I don't know, so we checked around and we picked some super low cost, because we really didn't know how much pocket was going to be used. I mean, remember, that was one of our we got a check in the box to say, there's our 4th large impact item.
Right.
Let's get the solar project built in highway. That's what we really were.
Their green
that was our
points.
benefit out of it At that time. I mean, we knew in the future, down the road, we were going to be expanding in these. Because that's where we're going. I mean, we're gonna have more electric vehicles, we're gonna have to expand it at some point. And putting it over there in the municipal parking lot, absolutely, this is where we want it. You're stuck somewhere for a couple of hours charging it, where you better spend your money than in the village, so. It works out. Sooner or later, we can adjust those rates accordingly, but we got to start somewhere.
So when you put a new one somewhere else, I'm assuming you've got an idea of where you want to put it.
Well, that would be the idea of strategic planning, where they need it.
And then
It's a little bit.
are we going to be in charge of it, or is the municipality going to be in charge of it? Like they were saying, he's got one up here.
Well, we could either have a municipality, or they could try, one of the goals is try to get private, people to have it. So you have a grocery store, a hotel.
Or a restaurant.
Restaurant,
Yeah, deal with a restaurant.
So according to your note, you're the electric vehicle supply company previously worked with the village of newer.
Yes.
To get one installed. Okay. So it sounds like it's right at the local level. But you're working with them to develop this plan.
Yes, yes.
So you're looking at the county.
The county, yes. It's a little bit complex, it's like where can you draw the line, where's a strategic location to place this?
Sure.
So there's a little bit more.
Are there any in Arcade?
There is, yes.
So there's an EV station in Arcade, electric charging?
In the village, there is, yes.
Yes.
Oh, the village there is.
Yes.
One in the village. Okay. I'm gonna add that.
I don't believe, no.
The village has a municipal electric department, so that's how they,
Oh, sure.
so
Where is it in Arcade?
somebody's paying for it. But the
It's
town doesn't have one.
It's the mutual parking lot,
Which is where behind like,
like I was back there.
okay. I've never been back.
All right.
And also like I've been looking into electric fleet research. Currently, the city of Rochester is helping me out. They're going to have a report soon on the combustible engine versus a electric fleet, as well as Binghamton, Cincinnati, Des Moines, and Ann Arbor. Clean energy communities have given me things from Minnesota, but I think we've got, like, reading through it. I think you kind of that, it's a little bit too skewed. So these cities just really have to get something more real world.
What surprised me when I read this was that electric vehicles are cheaper than
Well,
gas engine.
yeah, well,
Lower cost of maintenance,
you can take that with a grain, maybe the maintenance part,
lower cost of
but,
versus fuel.
but anything that's using electricity, battery charged, when you get to zero out, I'm telling you right now,
Right, it's half.
you aren't gonna go as far as you would have, or anything else.
Sure. So they're using it within
So a
the
lot of this,
confines of the city per se.
well,
I thought
in the
the-
confines of a city, a gas engine, obviously, you're gonna have lower fuel economy. And with an electric vehicle, it really doesn't matter.
But when you're stuck on the thruway in a 4-hour backup because of some accident, you're screwed.
Or in the middle of a blizzard.
Snowstorm.
Yeah.
A little
Assembly-
blizzard somewhere, you know, and so
The assembly
there's a lot of
passed,
pros and cons.
Well, I would think though that
For
for
cities, I can go along with it a little bit.
or even a village,
Right.
it might.
Yeah, say you're living in Warsaw and you don't go anywhere else, Janice.
Except I don't know how fast a Chevy Bolt goes.
Well, you go pretty fast.
Do they?
But
I don't think speed's the problem. I think it's the durability as far as your electric in the cold weather.
cold weather,
You're gonna,
you know.
the assembly passed yesterday
Gas
that,
backup to
what?
them? They have gas backup, some of them, they seem everything.
Well, some of them are hybrids, yeah.
Yeah.
Some
that
of them
was the new one.
have gas engines also.
Some of them are hybrid, but most of these, what we're talking about right now are totally electric vehicles.
Yes.
The assembly passed yesterday that all off-road by 2034 has to be zero emission.
Yeah,
Correct.
zero emission.
I don't know how you're gonna do that.
You're not.
It's gonna take a whole new technology. It's not technology today will never make you be able to plow your field with zero emission.
Back to the horses.
Yeah.
Oh, they admit.
Well, they want to tax that, so.
You're ready.
All right.
Methane.
Okay, this is good. You're getting more data though
Yes.
from different cities.
I'm trying to find, I can't find anything from, a rural perspective or even a suburban. Most of them have been urban settings, which you take with a grain of salt. Like the attributes are a lot different than what would be here.
Sure.
So.
All right.
We also been working, the Governor Hochul has announced a $10 million grant for farm worker housing for allow farm workers for COVID to shelter in place. In collaboration with Cornell Profit Extension and Community Action, we will be applying for a $1 million grant for farm worker housing. We have our first preliminary meeting with the Office of of community renewal on February 2nd.
That's great.
The other thing that I noticed here was this CARES grant application, which potentially could be utilized to purchase a new high-tech system.
Yes, we're
For the
working.
Ag Center.
Yes, we would go back and forth with OCR just because of planning and codes. Kind of, it's a fly in the ointment. We're trying to figure out how to manipulate the grants to prorate it so that that the building would be eligible.
All right, excellent.
But that's a work in progress. So that's doing everything we can with that.
About $3 million.
Yes. And the last thing, the Wilson Foundation reached out to my office and, hey, we want to spend some money in Wyoming County. I said, great. So their project play is going to, right now, we are coming up with a list of all of the youth sports organizations within the county. And we will have a town hall meeting for them for their project play. It'll help everything for equipment, coach training, boards, training, how to raise money. And they want to get these organizations to kind of like a first foundation to spend money and then later on bigger projects. So we've had a tremendous amount of interest in this. I thought going into 2025, our list is about 50 people already. So, and I'll send it around to make sure that no one's left off that list.
Okay.
But the Wilson Foundation is really excited that they weren't sure if we had interest, but we did.
Hey,
And
Back to broadband, James. Back when Bill Daley was here, we don't have it on, as sheriff says, Interstate 28. And it only comes down as far as Simmons Road and Prairie Center. And they said the reason is because of the franchise and that is HughesNet. Is that still in effect?
somewhat, yes. That's what we're trying, with the current state plan, I'm trying to figure out ways how to bridge that gap. There's also right-of-way fees, so in the DOT will charge providers for being in the right-of-way. So already the numbers don't make sense. And by the DOT putting this extra tax in, it really is almost a prohibitive stake in the heart. I did read in the governor's budget that they're proposing to lift that, which would be a big hurdle that's removed for broadband in Wyoming County. And I do have to give the state credit, they keep on going back and forth. They're trying to come up with a state comprehensive plan to connect, not just middle mile, last mile. And also, once we get broadband here, how is it going to be affordable? So for some families, if you get broadband, if it's $100 a month, it might as well be $1 million. They can't afford it. So how do you do availability and affordability? It's a two-pronged approach. And we're the only state that's actually been done that in a comprehensive way. So we'll be very well positioned when infrastructure money does begin to flow. Again, and unfortunately, it's going to take time.
Anything more for me? Appreciate it. I do appreciate your report.
Thank you.
Very thorough. Okay, moving on, we have some reappointments to do here. And these are to the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council. First one is the chairman member, Supervisor Davis from Covington. Chairman member alternate, myself from Middlebury. Supervisor member is Mr. Berliner from Arcade. And then Jerry Davis would be on the executive committee member. You still want to serve in that capacity?
I've never been in a meeting. It's all good for me.
That was one of the things I was going to bring up, is that 3 of us are voting members. I'd like to see James as a voting member.
Sure.
I know that, you know, Angela Ellis is very, very active in the Genesee Finger Lakes region. And she's their planner. And there's a couple other planners that serve on that council. It just makes sense for them to be a voting member. But a lot of them go to the meetings anyway. So,
What's the category, Jerry?
Hmm?
What's the category that they're there?
There's an executive committee and then there's a general larger body.
the regular committee meets 4 times a year.
Right.
Right now, they have me listed, Dan and Doug as voting members, and Jim Pierce is ex officio. But
Do we have these categorized in properly? This is what we've always done, is these categories.
yeah. Well, I got this email January 4th. And actually went to Rhonda Pierce.
I haven't seen it.
Yes, I got the same.
Yeah. Why they sent it to Rhonda? Just because she's county clerk. She's got nothing to do with these appointments. Should have went to you. I just got it here recently, so. That was the only thing I thought is, you know, a lot of the different counties send their planner as a voting member.
Sure.
I just thought maybe that would be,
So, because Doug was saying he doesn't know you on.
I'm more than happy to relinquish this
That she was
position.
voting member.
well,
Member.
the way we've got it here, yeah, you're like the supervisor member. And this is, I'll give you this.
Okay.
I had responded to that already to the individual who was his name was spelled my name.
Well, the new director, Paul Gabb,
Yes,
is very, he's only been there a couple of months. So they're redefining Tennessee Finger Lakes, the whole organization, basically. So, you know,
So when you're talking about a voting member, Dan and I would both be the alternates, meaning we would have the authority to vote. Is that what we're actually talking about, is a vote, if you were not able to attend the meeting?
well, I think there's 2 levels here. There's the executive committee.
executive committee
And
meets.
there's a much larger committee of the entire council that is comprised of planners and so on and so forth. I think if you remember, who was it from Genesee County? Steve Hyde? Was it Hyde? The IDA guy up there.
Yeah,
He was on this as well. I
at
believe,
one time.
At one time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
But see, they don't designate you guys the way we do.
right.
And nobody has, because we always make sure that we're sending our appointments on to the organization. They don't just stop at our office. We make sure that everybody knows, right? But it says right here that Jerry's a voting member, that Dan is a voting member, and that you're a voting member. It doesn't have these chairman member,
Right.
chairman member alternates.
And whether that has changed recently, it could have with Paul Gavin coming on, because they just kept having weekly meetings even that I couldn't attend all of them. So I missed out on some of that stuff.
couldn't we change then if we wanted to here, instead of having Doug as the supervisor member, we have a, I don't know, county member, or whatever, or a planning department member, and then James.
I don't even think you need to make the designation, just show voting members.
On this list?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it just shows,
Our
the-
list.
just shows as a voting member on
All
that.
right, well, you'd have to modify this list, so.
Really?
This just says each Genesee Finger Lakes member has 2 representatives for the first 50,000 in population, 1 representative for the second 50,000 or portion thereof, and 1 representative for each additional 100,000 in population, or different representatives that we have from the county.
But I agree with Jerry, it would be ideal to have at least 2 voting members, you and perhaps.
Actually, Jim Pierce is a voting member now. I
Oh,
think
he is, okay.
what's Jim now?
Shows him as an.
He's president of something, or
Oh.
it makes him a voting member, not representing the county, he's
All
representing.
right, so we could still have James as a voting member.
We can actually reach out to this Paul Gavin and tell him about this conversation and see how they would like it to look. And I can make the minutes reflect that, and the resolution reflects that, and it conforms to what they got going on over the Genesee Finger Lakes.
Okay, so how do we want to handle this today?
The regular board.
I'm sorry,
There's two different boards here. There's Jim Pierce on the,
He's on the executive
is
committee.
on the
he's on the
executive.
executive committee, don't say it. All three of them people can vote on the regular board. They're not on the exec, only one here shows is Jerry. That's what it used to be.
That's right,
All three of these, you, Doug, and Jerry on the regular board.
correct,
And the executive board is only Jerry here.
that's correct.
It's pretty simple there.
Simple. We want to have Jim as a voting member.
Right.
Oh,
I just want the reappointments to reflect what we want to do.
I
right.
agree with you.
Okay,
And we want what we do to agree with what the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council expects of us.
yes,
Yeah, we might want to give Paul a
I
call.
don't think so.
okay.
for this
I just
meeting.
think if we can decide who needs to be on there, I can make the minutes reflect that.
Well, I don't know, I thought I'd throw it out there.
No, I think that's a good point. Have you, James, been attending these meetings?
Absolutely,
You
yes.
have, okay,
He's there anyway, you might as well be a voting member.
well, I mean, you know, we always say you gotta have a seat at the table, right?
Right.
Okay, all right, do we wanna do that via motion here now?
Yep.
Okay, the only change here would be what, under supervisor member
Yeah, for that,
for Doug,
right?
that we would change that to reflect James Bragg.
And I'll get the right designations from.
Mr. Gadd,
Oh, I'm sorry?
from the gentleman here,
Yeah.
Gadd.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone clear on that?
Are you eliminating Doug's vote to Jim Bragg's vote?
Hopefully, yes, he will be able to vote. He will be able to vote.
So is that eliminating Doug's vote?
I'm all done. Retired from that.
You're fired. You look at the motion on
Thank you, Joe. We have a motion from Belzowski to reappoint Jerry as the chairman member, myself as the chairman member alternate, Mr. Bragg as a voting member or county member, and then have Jerry continue in the executive committee.
Sounds perfect.
Any further discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And I'm sure you can. We're gonna make sure you get that.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Just, Jerry, does the transportation council still meet the same day, same morning?
Yep,
But this is separate, transportation council.
right. The way it goes right now is the GTC is at 8:30 in the morning. Usually the executive committee of Tennessee Finger Lakes meets at 10 o'clock, and then the full board of Tennessee Finger Lakes meets at 11. So we try to do it all in one day in one place.
They still live in Enfield,
No,
downtown.
the last couple have been down at Rochester Regional Transit Office.
Okay.
Because GTC has to be on a public transportation route wherever they meet. And when they were meeting in Penfield, it wasn't on their route, so they couldn't meet there anymore. Federal.
They don't use that hotel no more.
Oh,
We
yeah, so,
still get that big meal at the end like you used to.
nope,
You don't shout out no more.
nope,
Yeah, so thank you.
All right.
I know, usually.
Hearing James Unfortunately, you won't be able to drive your electric vehicle then. Congratulations.
Well, a lot of it's changed now, so
Sure.
I don't know whether it's for the better or not.
I mean, who's on the transportation council?
Me. I don't,
Devin,
Last couple of years, I was superintendent. was-
Devin,
there's a meeting tomorrow.
ETC Planning Committee,
I don't think anybody else in the county knows, right?
no. Devin will be bringing up,
He's going to meeting tomorrow. He's not gonna be at committee because he said he has a meeting tomorrow. Is that correct?
yeah, he has a meeting. I don't know if it's the planning committee or not. He's gonna be available by phone.
Yeah.
I met with him yesterday on the Crossland Road Bridge. So
He's sending Pete, I think, right?
yeah, he's gonna call in. He's sending Pete, but he's gonna call in too.
Well, this is important because there's a lot of grant funding that flows through this planning council for a bunch of different things. I mean, a wide variety of stuff, so.
I think it only makes sense if the planner's there.
Since he's
now the grant writer, and he knows what's going on.
Yep. Okay,
And maybe he can get us into that, what do they call it? Northern Lakes, whatever.
Regional Lake Erie.
Yeah.
Bigger lakes, where they're not bigger.
Yeah, there's a lot of money involved with that thing. If we get that in it as our county in it. I think Genesee County just got that.
Right. I thought that we, at one,
Did we apply to
We
it?
have we still have a congressional bill that's not passed, but
It's very exciting.
it has to be a federal bill passed.
Okay.
But the bill is still active,
sure,
it just hasn't passed Congress.
good luck.
Well, there's always that.
All right,
All right,
enough of that one?
sure.
Okay, next one is a professional services contract. And this is authorizing us to pay them some money. The Finger Lakes Regional Planning Council for Wyoming County share of the public employees fidelity blanket bond in the amount of $500,000. Year 2022, the amount of $7,311.70. I see this is something we've done every year, right?
It's up slightly.
It is, but this is an increase.
How much?
I'm not
It's
sure.
like $400 per
Oh,
hour,
yeah.
I think, or
It's,
maybe a little bit more than that, because I think it was 66.78 rings a bell to me, so.
Okay,
it's something more around 15%, something like that. It hasn't been raised.
I was gonna say, Jerry, it hasn't changed in forever, if I can remember, but.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then when the new director took over, they decided to raise it.
all right.
And I will move that, Dan.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Davis. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, next, the Wyoming County Planning Board. We've got some 3-year terms and then some unexpired term. And alternate members. So the first one is 3-year term for January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024. Town of Arcade, Town of Warsaw. Arcade was vacated by Mr. Dutton. And Warsaw, Jerome Smith. All right, and the next one was Town of Covington, vacated by, was it Johnson?
Dave Johnson,
Dave Johnson.
Johnson Space Center.
Ah, yes, okay.
It's a neighborhood place.
And then alternate members effective January 1st, 2022 through December 31st. Lisa Arias, alternate, and it was formerly held by Chief Pfeiffer, Town of Warsaw.
I got 3 vacancies and you got 1 that you're filling.
Yep.
Need a motion?
I don't know about anybody else, but I'm having trouble filling the planning board vacancies.
We've had 25 applicants, I'm conducting the interviews now.
Well, send a couple over to me, Doug. I can use it. It's tough.
One guy comes all aboard, and he's a good guy, Vietnam veteran and all that. He's just interested, and I said, Bob, why don't you join the planning board? And I said, and so he took it. I said, by the way, there's this very, very lucrative position also in the county planning board every month. You get to drive to Warsaw. No. Like you said, there's nobody wants.
Nobody wants them.
Yeah, and it's tough to get people.
You gotta have a seat at the table.
You put that down.
But we're fortunate to have a smart board on this board, you know, and of course, you know, he's a sharp guy, you know, architect.
If a guy takes the time, or if a person takes the time to try to serve on board, typically they're pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
And, but it's, hoping the chairman of the planning board, he's an engineer for the Army Corps of Engineers, and he's excellent. I thought maybe he was driving at night, you know, guys work all day.
I asked everybody on my planning board. And in the zoning board of appeals, if any of them wanted it. I don't know.
Doug, you just freed up your schedule from the regional council there.
All right.
Yeah, frees up a lot of time.
So we have a motion, by the way. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. All right. Next. Oh, here we go. Another one. Well, Regional Solid Waste Management Committee. These are one-year terms effective January 1st of this year through December 31st. Under Planning and Development is Mr. Bragg from County Planning. Supervisor members are Jerry Davis and Sandy King, and I am an alternate supervisor member. I have it. You okay with this?
Do you have a vote as the alternate?
What is that?
Do you have a vote as the alternate?
Anybody that knows Peggy Grayson is, she's very passionate.
Very.
So, and we have a meeting Friday, anybody wants to go. The County Building 2 in Batavia.
It's
I make that motion.
Rise down.
Meeting in Oasis, I might consider.
Well, that might be the stop just before I go to this meeting.
I think Supervisor Davis and King do a phenomenal job. I'll move those appointments.
Thank you. Supervisor McCormick. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you for serving.
Not done.
I'm not done yet.
That's done?
Oh, my goodness. We've got page 5. These are the Glow Solid Waste Advisory Committee. Supervisor member is Sandy King, Alan Pike, and Joan Petson. We're now cooperative as an agency representative.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. A motion by Supervisor Berlinger. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed, carried.
Right, for 2 and 3.
Pardon me?
For 2 and 3.
Oh, 2 and 3? What is it, 2 and 3 done?
Absolutely.
Got it, okay. That would be myself as this planning supervising member, one-year term with Mr. Bragg as the planning board. Okay. All right, I guess that gets us through most of the appointments, right? Next is Mr. Roberts with countywide zoning. So have your monthly report is attached. Which is the full year report essentially, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, it's not quite finalized yet, because we still got some pending bills that are paid. So that a couple of those numbers may get changed once we get to our annual report status there, just with the adjusting our expenditures and so forth, so we can come up with a finalized on the actual part of it. But the revenue stuff, we should be correct now. Okay. We also attached the munis income statement there. We're showing a $6,500 levy, which is way under what we proposed for the year. Any questions on that?
so why is it this, why is it a significant difference between 2020 and 2021?
So difference being, so we went from the prior year, we were at that 272 per parcel as far as revenue goes, okay? Then we moved up to that 591 per tax parcel. So that's why it's so much different.
And you were short staffed
And yes, and so,
because someone left and you were without for a while and
yeah,
there was a lot of that.
so it was a half a year to refill that zoning position, left for almost 5 months without a zoning officer. So there was some expenditures that did not happen through the year. That's why we're so far under.
Well, I'm sure you're being about $9,000, right? Almost 9,000 less than the salaries.
Yep.
Okay. This year. Or last year, right?
Never had that yet, though, just,
Okay.
there's still more.
There's some
revenue standing.
No, from like expense,
Yeah.
just across the board.
Yeah, across the board.
Across the county, I think when I sent out the email, I don't know if you looked at
I
it,
did.
but none of the accruals have been done yet for salary or
I
friends.
saw a lot of highlights in there. Comments.
I got your program.
You looked like you were enthusiastic about applying.
I do it for me just as much as you guys, so.
I appreciate that. It was very well done. Okay, anything on the 2 reports? I don't have my highlight.
No, not really. As far as the year went, I mean, as far as numbers go, we did very well. I mean, even though we're still, year 2 of the pandemic crisis with everything that's been going on and materials are high and everything else, but our numbers, you wouldn't know by looking at our numbers that we're going through a pandemic. The amount of work that's been flowing through the zoning department and the building codes department also, the numbers have been great. I mean, even in the building codes, I'll go over that with you tomorrow. We're approaching for the first time ever almost a $200,000 revenue in 1 year. We have never been over 158,000 a year. So as far as the revenue goes, it's been very well.
314 permits.
Yep. We're double that in the building department, but yeah, that's for having 10 municipalities that we've been dealing with, 314 permits, that's a lot of permits. So numbers have been good. Activity's been good as far as growth, and estimated value of construction is way up. Normally we do 28 million a year on a good year. We're over 42 million in estimated value of construction this year, or last year. So a huge increase. There's a couple things that contributed to those huge increases. Solar projects are a big one. They're very expensive to do. There's a lot of there's a lot of construction value in these large scale projects that adds to that construction value astronomically. Pipe alone is $18 million in estimated value for those 2 solar projects down there. I mean, those are big ticket items.
Well, you saw a jump in units when you did the budget, taxable value, considerable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And there's no questions on that. I do have one thing to add. I did get a letter from one of our building occupants over at the Ag Center who would like to request a release from the contract and from rental.
She has, and that's in the basement. I'm sure we know what we're talking about. There's some personal things going on and she's no longer wants to rent from at the Ag Center. I do have a letter. I got it today. I'll give it to Kat. Just as an FYI for you.
Okay,
Okay. But now that's all I got.
thank you.
Yeah, at some point, we anticipate, I think, right, that these next two categories will migrate over to buildings and grounds. Once the work closes on it, right?
Correct. Yeah, the Ag and Business Center and the Ag Center
Yeah.
space and building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions, but I'll hold those until tomorrow.
Yeah, part of it, and then something goes on at the Ag Center, more than happy to make my primary contact over there. As far as classroom rentals, if you're still going to be renting classrooms, you still have to have somebody work with Cornell on looking at whoever's renting. Okaying their insurance forms and things like that. Typically, they give me every one of them, and I okay it, and they go ahead and rent the platform. So there's a little bit of monies that are involved with the rental, not that we get a lot, but there's a little here and there once in a while. It's more or less tracking the insurance stuff, what goes on at the rents. Sure, so somebody will still need to do that. You never know when that stuff comes in, it's just day by day.
Anything more for Don? Okay, thank you, sir.
And just for information, they were put the hold on the airport project. Till April 1st. Stop that.
I was up there with the engineer that morning, he showed up, and they were trying to unplow the ground with the work.
Yeah.
And the engineer got out and said, hi, I'm so and so, and I says, hi, I'm. If they're not for you today, I'm like, okay, well, I know my.
Yeah.
So
Anything was for.
they tried to hash out, try to heat it, but they're like, I don't know, if it's gonna be worth it. You guys got some 0-degree weather coming up here.
They put in a first class line up there.
Putting in a snow removal equipment building with an FAA project we've been working on for 4 years. The only advantage to the whole thing, because of the CARES Act and all the COVID thing, the FAA is 100% paying for it. We started it out, we went down to Morton's. They bought us a loader, which is as big as any town loader in the county to plow the airport, which we didn't think we didn't need. We didn't have a place to put it.
Yeah.
They said, we'll build a building for you. So we went down to Morton's and went, yeah, $100,000, we can do it. I think we're at $458,000 now with all the engineering and the FAA involved.
I know, and plus,
It's-
It's huge. And the FAA is going to pay for that.
Yeah. You're right,
there's
Jack.
matching funds.
Okay.
But wait, no, this is.
No matching
This
funds.
is- This one's on.
Yeah, 100%.
And you can't say America isn't the land of opportunity.
Just which pocket they take the money out of.
There's a runway for the 20 airplanes that are up there.
Okay. All right, moving on, we have some additional reappointments, and this is for the Chamber of Commerce. First one is to reappoint Supervisor Ryan Warsaw to the Wyoming County Chamber of Commerce Board of Supervisors number 3. We're assuming it's a 1-year appointment through December 31st of this year. Like to continue to serve.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion by Supervisor Ozowski. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed, carried. All right, you want to talk about these items in this next one, the shop Wyoming?
I do.
Sure.
Well, we actually need to change that date, Carol. That's the date of the Super Bowl, and because the date of the Super Bowl falls after your regular monthly meeting,
I was gonna say, guess what? It should be 8.
we can't have I can't do the drawing.
It'll be 8.
No, I can't do it. I have to do it after the event. So,
Right, so March.
no, I published that we would do it on the 15th,
Okay.
so I won't be able to do it here.
Oh, so sad.
I know, you enjoy it so much.
Oh,
We do, it's fun, and for sure, we can come and tell what happened, but I'm gonna have to find new people to draw too, because usually I have. Unless we, I don't know.
Can you do it during a committee schedule?
No, he's already committed.
I'd have to, unless there was something going on that I could come over and kind of get into while you're in.
Here,
I don't know, it says it in the rules.
but yeah,
But yeah, because we have to do it fairly close to the Super Bowl, because that's what, that $25,000 prize is contingent on the Super Bowl.
So why do you have to wait until after the game? You'll know the results, right? Is there a separate drawing for that
It's a-
particular category?
That's a contingent one, so, I mean, we could come and draw the guaranteed prizes.
Yes.
Because those would be known if you want to,
I think that would be good,
because they're not gonna change.
right?
The only one that would be an extra prize that we'd have to draw for would be if that particular set of circumstances happens, the Super Bowl, then we would have to draw $25,000.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, you don't have to draw.
Right,
Exactly.
so we could come and do that.
Let's do it.
And because we've got, what, 4 guaranteed, so 4
Right.
on 8.
okay, so we're back on for the 8th.
Okay.
Supervisors, the
Okay.
guaranteed 4.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it will occur on
The 8th.
the 8th. Okay,
right.
right. You just won't know.
We won't announce the winners until after. We'll draw them, but we want to say their names. How's that?
You know, public meeting.
I gotta know that day.
Okay, well, all right, we can do that. There's no reason not to. All the tickets and everything are in, so.
Dan, are you gonna be here?
I'll probably be here.
I want you to pick my ticket.
Well, usually the senior supervisors.
Somebody pick them. You better pick your own.
Yeah, it's a nice presentation.
It is.
So, all right, we'll do that. Well, we can announce.
Okay,
We can announce it. Yeah.
all right, so this is just a notice, right? We're not gonna vote on this.
No.
Okay. All right. I assume you're here for this next discussion item too,
Yeah, I don't.
which is, you want to step up to the, all right.
And
All right, so we had, after last planning one, we had contacted Scott and Jim Pierce about their thoughts around the Ag Center receptions. And, what we should be doing there. And Jim had talked to Scott then subsequently. And you had some good thoughts and ideas around, you sent me a fairly lengthy email around what your thinking was associated with that. And I think, there's a strong desire for us to have a person sitting there at the entrance of the Ag Center. There's a lot of reasons, both from a security standpoint, as well as being able to direct people to the right places, make sure they're taking receipt of the mail, that kind of thing.
they can schedule.
Scheduling there, the Ag Center, the training rooms, all of that, so. We have some thoughts.
So I had just made in the email, I talked about greeting customers, directing people to the places where they need to go, calling ahead. Probably be a good idea in many cases, rather than people wandering the building. And then checking and signing if possible. Then managing the reservations at the learning center, organizing delivery mail, and then, any other additional duties at the sign. That was what was happening before. There was, we could put a stipend to do that at that place, and then that went away. It's been gone. Well, I think it's still.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, we don't do that.
We don't do that.
So if you wanted to do it, I think you need to, if it would be, I don't think you want a county employee, right?
Most likely not,
Now,
right?
so I guess we're coming back, to that was what the discussion was in the email, was reappropriating something to put somebody at that position on a regular basis to serve the building.
Okay. And you had expressed some willingness to provide.
Yeah, so when you asked that, you had asked, Jim really didn't have any interest in it. And I said, well, yeah, we could do that, we could manage that person. So it would be a contract employee, basically. Give them other projects. Just do it if necessary. That would be.
Then what Don mentioned before, as far as managing the rental.
Yes.
price rental, I mean, that would be, I would see that as a duty for that as well. And
Right.
collecting insurance, making sure they get their insurance and what's being done now, that would take that burden off of buildings.
For the classrooms.
Zoning, yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Right.
I think you were very much in favor of this, and I think,
Absolutely.
we absolutely need to do this. But, my reluctance was having to hire a county employee, a new county employee to fill that role. But if Scott is willing to have an individual under their direction do that, and we can consider some, financial reimbursement, whatever, for that.
Yeah, however it's structured,
Or however we structure it, it would still be more efficient for us to do it that way in the long run.
Especially since when we take ownership of the building, too, it's important to have somebody at that point.
Absolutely. We'd like to do it sooner than that if we could.
Yeah.
We'd like to have someone there today, but
Well, we have to go through the
well,
process.
you want to go through, so the question really becomes one, do we want to authorize Scott and the Chamber of Commerce to move forward with hiring a person to fulfill that role? Correct?
Or how about talk about how much you're willing to contribute
Right.
and a contractual agreement with them to provide whatever services we're asking them to provide.
Okay, right.
Because we don't want it to
We
be
want to do
more.
that as a separate agreement with the Chamber?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it'll be a completely separate agreement for these services.
Okay,
That
Is
was
there a job description?
yes, we will have a job description.
Well, they will have a job description.
But I think it would be something that we're working with you, that we would work with you to develop.
So I'll tell you what,
We just don't want it to look like an employee.
you sent
Right,
your email just to me,
I saw
or you got that?
you must have forwarded it, I sent it, I replied.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Okay, because Cheryl can put together, I think, the resolution or whatever we do from,
Well, let's talk dollar about it. We're gonna.
Yeah, that's the easy part. I
Yeah.
think what you need is the agreement between the county and the chamber designating. This is what we're gonna pay you for, this is how much we're gonna pay you for it, and this is how you're gonna get
So
it.
that's what you'd have to really, this is kind of an initial conversation, I think, because you'd have to pay at least minimum wage. And to get anybody there and decide what hours that.
Yeah, full-time, part-time.
yeah, I think a full-time position, minimum wage.
Right.
Whatever you guys were, 8 or 9 to
Or 8:30.
5 or 8:30 to 4:30 or
Yeah,
5.
kind of, whatever the building, I think that kind of rounds up most of the buildings.
Sure. I mean, we're not gonna pay any benefits,
We're not paying.
Right.
Contract, yeah.
Right, that's true.
That's why we're paying now.
He needs to come up with a dollar amount.
he already has.
Okay.
I don't have it in this email, I didn't bring this one.
Do you have an idea of what you were, like, you must have calculated it up?
I did, it was, we were looking at,
But I think your number was with the expectation there would be some subsidy.
Yeah, we're gonna contract with them.
Correct.
That's a
so
contract.
we need to go back and just do the 13.20 an hour times 8 hours a day, 5 days a week to come up with. And I think
That comes up to about 27,000.
I think that's where we were about.
How much?
27.
Yeah, that was in the range, right?
Yeah, we were in that range.
26 something.
Yeah, well, the previous thing was 26.
And would you be able to utilize this person in for chamber tours too, to do your work and?
Probably answer phones in addition to answering the building phones. and things like that. They're gonna have to answer, would have them answering the tours of calls.
Maybe just stuff if you things.
Distributing.
Well, they're gonna do, that would be in the duties, right, that we talked about, that we're gonna be delivering everybody's mail, putting it in the mail slots, processing it. You know, and whatever other things that we think that the building needs covered. I mean, I just kind of put some that I thought would be good.
So I don't think eliminate retail would be an agreement between the county and chamber. It's gonna be for secretarial services or for receptionist services and the amount not to exceed the big number, right?
Okay.
And the rest of that is, like, you can work behind the scenes with the county to figure out what our needs are to meet that, but
Right.
the contract will be.
We kind of, yeah, we want to make sure that the building tenants are happy with, you know, kind of pull everybody and find out, you know, I went through what was sort of happening or what we would like to have, but there really wasn't any real job description of what was happening.
Well, I believe Mike Adams Act is going to have a meeting with all of the tenants next week.
Yeah, I think
He
so.
said in his email, next week he's gonna meet with all of the
Oh,
tenants. And he had a whole list of things he wanted to discuss with them.
okay.
If we could add that part to the discussion,
Sure.
you know, of a receptionist, what do you expect to get out of this receptionist?
Right.
We'd have a much better idea about specific job duties.
Yeah,
And we could
exactly.
ask Jennifer to put a contract together.
Actually, I got a couple of good templates, so
Okay. Jennifer,
I do.
or Jim, okay, perfect.
No, I do.
Exactly right, so we were gonna pay this much for.
Right, I just want to have an agreement on some
Do
expectations.
you have any candidates in mind?
Not off the top of my head, but maybe.
All right.
I've got a question. This is Brian Kale. I got a question.
Oh, sure, Brian.
What have we ever done with the Cornell Cooperative and the stipend we were giving them? We never took that back, did we?
No,
Sort.
no, it wasn't separated out the last 2 years as a direct expense for that purpose. So,
So it's additional levy, yes.
yes,
Unless you want to change all the rental agreements and spread that out, which I'm sure we're not gonna do, so.
So we've let them go and we're gonna replace it with more money.
yes, that is correct.
Dan, I have to leave, my ride's out here, I don't want to get any more trouble.
That's a long walk back.
We're gonna have another opportunity tomorrow.
Oh, yeah,
All right.
maybe this will be the opportunity to say, yeah, you can have your keys back.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Brian?
Yeah, I just was curious if everybody's aware of that.
Yeah, well, we are now, yes. Okay,
So we'll continue to have that conversation and come up with a.
well, I think it would be helpful for you to maybe time with Mike's meeting with.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna be there anyway, because you're.
Yeah, we haven't gotten notice yet.
Yeah, he had planned on having that meeting next week. To discuss, building tenant and who's gonna do what from the county perspective, from a building standpoint. But he is also very keen on the need to have a person sitting down there at that desk. So
But I think we had some security issues.
Yes.
So we could very helpful with that.
Sure. So we can poll the tenants to find out, what they're looking for.
Right, I mean, like I said, we've got some general ideas from, conversations over the years. But
Okay.
I think, yeah, we'll find out if there's anything that we're missing.
And I think we're in the ballpark in terms of what we've been talking about for.
I would think so. I would hope that we could get somebody.
You need to come up with a contingency plan too, if the person's out absent.
Yeah.
Or during lunch hour.
If we want somebody there.
Maybe one of the tenants who have secretarial people can just pop in for one of those, just because we're not charging them for the service.
Exactly.
That's true.
Exactly.
They just ask for volunteers. Rotating basis or whatever.
Okay.
Okay.
Dan will fill in.
Kitchen roll.
Right.
At some point too, we're gonna talk contracts. I know we talked ARPA funds, allocating money for, this is what keeps me up at 3 in the morning and I email myself for a contract for the webpage and a contract for the promotional thing you're doing. And I guess what I, in the contract, I guess I'd like to reimburse for these expenses. So not say $40,000, like if your webpage comes in at 35, it'd be nice to only reimburse 35. So some sort of justification for that, because I'm gonna ultimately have to pay that, and I'm gonna be, yeah.
So this is above and beyond some, right?
Yes, these should be
Yeah,
two
these are
separate, two additional contracts, so maybe the next committee cycle, I don't know when you're planning on starting that,
Well, the one that started already.
because nothing has been appropriated for that yet, so we're gonna do that individually as projects are running, so.
We did that once before.
Okay, so I didn't know if you wanted me to throw that, I could bring that on my finance agenda to appropriate the money, but we still need a contract, so it doesn't matter, I could do it next time.
Yeah. When we did that once before.
It would look better though, James, if they did the contract and the appropriation on the same.
So just keep that in mind maybe for the next cycle to, I think it'd be better to have two separate contracts for that. Okay.
The other thing is that you normally, at the start of the year, ask for your full year's allocation,
I normally did, yes.
and
I
haven't done that.
I
at
haven't
this
emailed
juncture.
you yet, no, I haven't. But
And now we're working on getting the contracts.
I know you're still working on them, so I can
Yes.
ask now.
You can.
If it would, okay, well then I would ask for the full appropriation, now it's easier to budget. If it's possible, like sometimes I ask for better installments, and other times we've done it one installment, so I can ask for that now. It's not agenda, but I'll ask for it.
We'll get it added.
I'm in, as we speak.
And I also brought, I didn't know when I was-
We're sure, but we'll slow prove it through here, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Joe.
Just a comment or a question. We heard the wages he's talking about, starting wage for this position. This morning we heard the wages at the Ag Committee of numerous people in the county. Plus load of benefits to go with them. If you know what I'm talking about, okay? And you think you're gonna get someone qualified to get this position at the wage you're talking? You can't get people to work today. And you say it's a jam full.
Oh, sure.
If you're gonna get somebody qualified, the type of person that he wants, or they want down there to do the job. And I'm referring back to the wages we heard this morning. And the people we heard this morning are just loaded with benefits.
Yes.
I can bring out prices if you want.
This is a fairly light,
And I can get someone for that price?
light duty job. You know, there's not a great deal of heavy lifting associated with this type of position. Essentially, we want you to, agree.
I know what you want. I got a little bit of understanding.
Okay.
You still gotta have somebody sit there, and they gotta know when he's in or out, when to be back, take notes,
Right.
try to do a lot of stuff, but I'm just bringing up employment is all.
No, I agree. It's sometimes very difficult to find people to fill those roles.
Yes, Penny Savers are totally loaded.
Yeah.
On one end.
Sure.
Well, and I think to that point, I think if we advertise it, we just aren't getting anybody. I mean, that's not a reason. that topic.
So,
I think if I were working at McDonald's, I'd rather work there and answer telephones for the same amount of money. So I'd say there's definitely
I
people
mean,
out there.
there's incentive to want.
Right.
Did you advertise that position yet?
no,
You might want to put a very good description of what you want
Right.
at that price. Because I want to see who interviews that. I'd love to sit back and watch.
Right, well, and that's why it's a good point, and I think that if we aren't getting anybody fighting, let's come back and talk.
Well, another thing is that maybe you'll hire 2 part-time people. 4 hours a day. There could be some elderly people that want a little bit of added income instead of sitting down at Walmart and being a greeter.
Right.
They could sit over there and be a
That's a
greeter.
good idea, Jerry, because then you got that little bit of overlap that your doctor's a lunch hour.
Yeah,
Right, I mean, there's different, and that's what we're gonna have to explore.
yeah, I mean, this is gonna be a moving target
I mean, this would be a perfect job for a college student.
or
You
a
know,
retired person.
Either doing it
Retired
remotely
person,
or
it's in the village, and we're stuck to the pocket chief.
No, you got an over 50 apartment complex down here.
I think we do have people who wants to come down for 4 hours a day, and not spend a whole day. Just, they want to go and spend it. They want to get out, see, meet people, and, you know, straight up.
That's the benefit to.
A widow.
Sometimes you have to fight it out.
Somebody's lost her husband. They work 4 hours. they go spend one hour.
Hey, some guy that wants to go down and sit at drinks, you know, it's a great opportunity.
If you want.
All right.
Brilliant.
Noted, so noted, Joe, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it in terms of whether we can find someone for that particular salary.
Whether they can.
Yeah.
Right, we'll just have to keep you posted.
Right.
That's what you get before the day runs out.
Maybe we'll.
I know.
Okay, next is, we have a resolution to, appropriate the full amount of tourism funding.
Oh, that's budget.
The appropriations there, we're just gonna be able to pay him all of it.
Right,
You're correct, so the appropriation is there, we want to be able to pay you your full amount
one payment rather.
in one payment, as opposed to spreading that out.
But I just changed the contract to say that, oh,
It says that you have to ask finance. if you want
Right,
to
so it's
go-
gonna be right,
It's
referred
either
to
or.
finance after this.
Move this to fine.
Yes.
That's my motion.
Is that your motion? Okay. I have a motion by Supervisor Davis to move this to finance. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Done. Okay.
Want to take a minute to prepare while he's here, or did you want, are you busy? I don't know your time. Okay,
We're here.
great, all right, Eric will give you a brief, then we were, update on initiatives, what's happening right now. He's also got, I'll pass out, I won't pass out, I'll hand these out. You don't pass out.
Good afternoon, everybody. So just a couple really quick updates on what we're doing in tourism. My lovely assistant here was handing out a small packet. So we have started the development of our new website. What you have here is just this is really the first draft of the design portion of the website. Obviously, we want to upgrade what we have. We make it much more visual, because really, as we talked about multiple times before with our old website, we really sort of maxed out what we could do with it, from just a content standpoint. So we're working with corporate communications up in Rochester. And do you need one?
Yes.
All right. All right. So really just trying to enhance the visual appeal of our website, try to make it much more easier to navigate. So this is sort of the first draft of what we've got going on right now. So obviously a lot more work to do on this, but just wanted to sort of give you a sense of what we're looking at doing from a starting point standpoint and where we're at. So we've started that process. We're also working on our 2022 travel guide. We're a little behind on this just because of funding challenges, but also because of a paper shortage is really sort of a challenge. Paper prices right now are atrocious. So we're hoping that the costs will come down a little bit for us so we can get a better deal on what we want to do. Because we're hoping to do at least 75 to 80,000 copies of our travel guide. So we are in the design process of that now. So we're hoping to have that done in the next month or so, give or take. So working on that.
How do people digitally get that? Like, I mean, is there a way to digitally get that?
So the travel guide, yes, is on our website digitally. So people, once it's done, it's all mapped on our website. So if people just want to flip through it on our website to see what it looks like that way, that is an option.
Social media, you're doing that.
And they can connect to our website because it's all contained on there. So, but also if they want to request a travel guide hard copy, they can request it through our website. And that's where we capture demographic information for newsletters and things like that, email blasts.
So is it optimized for cell phone?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
Okay. Because most people I know now use either an app or they're using their cell phone to find things to do things with.
And we are definitely, our website now is mobile optimized, but of course the new website will be that way as well. And it actually will be some enhancements too as well. So it'll be a little extra more user friendly for people with their mobile device.
Eric, can you remind me how this is funded?
So we did get an appropriation.
They were
Funding.
this board approves the funding with the ARPA funds to enhance this.
Yes, so.
You don't have any grant funding for it?
We did an initial down payment through our matching funds program, just to get the ball rolling, because obviously, in good faith, to get this project going, we have not paid all of it, because inevitably there will be some expenses that will come up. But we will pay with that through the funding here, to complete the website, the full website redesign.
There may be some state funding to, not enough to cover this, but a few little shekels to throw your way. I'll look into it, only because and what sparked this is most of your pictures here are Letchworth Park. So we're highlighting a state park here in most of what you're doing. There may be there was some talk on a conference call about some funding that way to enhance our park.
Yeah, and some of those pictures will change too. That's just sort of the designer put in there just as a placeholder. I've actually been in touch with Keith Walters. I don't know if you're familiar with Keith Walters, but he's a well-known photographer at Geneseo. And I have a conversation with him next week about doing some video for us, some creative for us, just so we can update some of our pictures. I think we've got some really good content, but just the more we can have, the better, because especially if we roll out a new website, we want to have as many amazing pictures and videos as possible. Because when we roll it out and tell people this brand new, grand, amazing website, when they visit it, we want to make sure they're impressed and they're not just like, these pictures are great.
I'll ask our research people if that's something that can be applied to that funding pool.
Yeah,
if I can, I'll send it your way.
So we're also working with, I feel like I've mentioned this once or twice before, but we're doing a destination assessment evaluation with a third-party consultant. His name is Josiah Brown, and he has done several visits to the county, really just sort of evaluating where we are, what our climate looks like, what our culture looks like from a business standpoint, where our needs are. And from an economic development standpoint, it's something that we're working with. Jim Pierce is involved, tourism is involved. And so really just from an economic development standpoint, what we as a county can do to theoretically build a strategic plan for our economic partners moving forward. So we've made a couple of visits to the county, and the next step in his process is to have conversations with major stakeholders in the county. And so we're building a list. I have to have a conversation with him, so I don't bury him, but he'll probably spend a day or two out here talking to some of the stakeholders. So we're talking supervisors, mayors, community members, business owners, just really just a cross-section of people from the county, so he can get a sense of what people are experiencing, what they're seeing, what the needs are, things like that. So that's a process and a project that we're working through with not only tourism, Scott's involved, Jim Pierce is involved, or with the IDA. So it's a full umbrella economic development project. And then the last thing I just want to mention is, sorry, did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. Are there any questions so far? I know, I'm just trying to go a little bit quick. I respect everybody's time. The last thing I want to mention is just some of the advertising and marketing partnerships that we're working on for this year, early on. Arcade Winterfest is coming up, we're celebrating their 50th year. So we've been in contact with them to do some social promotion and marketing activities. We also I've been in touch with Ken Kale over at the Wyoming County Maple Association. Maple Weekends are coming up at the end of March. So we're doing a pretty significant social marketing, really a full campaign with all of them participating maple producers in the county to promote Maple Weekends, to get people out here and explore our different maple farms and our maple producers. So we're working through that. And then I've also done outreach to discuss marketing support for Apple, Untitled, and Letchworth Arts and Crafts. Both of those shows are big fall events here in the county. So I've begun initial conversations with them about how we can support them from a marketing and promotional standpoint. So those are just some of the stuff, some of the things that we're working on right now. Obviously, we'll do a lot more partnerships as the year progresses, but those are some of the early ones that we're working on now. So just kind of quick in a nutshell. Any questions on any of that?
The arts and crafts show in Perry. Does it look like they're gonna keep it there again?
My understanding is they are going to keep it there for this year.
They only have a little over half of the vendors that they used to have in Perry or at the park. And there's a lot of room there. You see the pluses and minuses of that.
Right.
The busing was a situation, but a lot of people didn't like it. The biggest thing is we have no idea of the sales tax revenue.
Right.
So that probably can't be deciphered out, can it?
My conversation with the treasurer, and I don't know if she's had sort of the same conversation with you, is that it's difficult to nail down the sales tax numbers because of a lot of it depends on when they file their sales tax.
Yeah.
So it could be fourth quarter last year, it could be this quarter, they could file, or well, they could file quarterly, yearly. It's just really hard to pinpoint when, like, to that specific time, period of time. So that was sort of her point. My thought was to still take a look at those numbers to see if we could just get any information off it. I haven't heard anything back yet. But from what I understand is they are planning on having it there this year, still in park, and they want to increase the number of vendors a little bit, probably not to the number that they had in the park, just because I think that would be significant.
A lot of room left there.
Right, and I think that's their thought.
There's no consideration of moving it somewhere else in the county?
I don't know if they've had, how deep those conversations have gone. I've not been in some of those meetings. But I know they've had conversations about other options, and the fairgrounds at one point was discussed. But I know at this point.
I think the feeling of the council is to leave it in Perry.
Right. And I think, short term, they definitely think last year went well. Obviously, some things that need to be worked out, but I certainly don't want to speak for Jackie, I think.
They're still talking about.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff they've got to figure out.
It's the first year, there's gonna be bumps.
There's a
in the
lot of
road.
stuff still, information still coming in and
Yeah.
being discussed.
But that's my understanding.
Yeah.
So handling for sure this year, unsure about future years.
Because last year was the first time they held the craft show or the craft sale in Perry.
I was there every day.
They purposely
I could see that.
reduced the size. Yeah.
So I think my understanding is they want to increase the number of vendors,
Yeah.
not to the number at Letchworth, but they definitely want to increase the number of vendors. So grow the show, but also essentially baby steps, Keep managing.
And they don't want this to turn into the Perry Arts and Crafts Show. This is,
Letchworth.
right, they want to make sure it's county-wide, not specific to Perry.
Well, I think there's been some conversations about diversifying it as well, maybe
Yeah.
adding some more live music, entertainment, additional. I mean, there's some now, but adding some more elements to the show. So it's not just arts, like craft based, there's some other, entertainment, avenues as well. So I keep pushing for craft beverage, so we'll see.
I was gonna say, craft beer.
I wouldn't mind that, we'll see.
Craft beer.
I pitched that.
Jam in the valley or?
Right, I wouldn't mind, nice and hard, drink.
No, we don't want to go there.
Well,
Okay.
so, that's it. Is there any questions? I'm all set. All right, thank you.
All right. Need to move along here. So I think that's it from the chamber, right? Okay. All right, so we've got some more appointments then. It's the IDA to reappoint Becky Ryan from the town of Warsaw, Doug Berwanger from the town of Arcade, to 1-year appointments, the IDA board.
Move that.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion by Supervisor Kozlowski. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Got it. Okay. Next appointment is for Luann Roberts from the town of Genesee Falls to be reappointed for a 1-year term to the Arts Council Board of Directors.
Move that again too. We need good people on it. I spent 6 years on it. I know what goes on every year.
And you were on last year, weren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
last year was my first year, so,
So you want to continue in that capacity?
yeah.
Very good. And was that a motion, Joe? Yeah. Thank you. A motion by Supervisor Kozlowski. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, now, next, a couple more appointments. This is the BEC, Business Education Council. These are 1-year terms, January 1st of this year to December 31st. For 2 members, one is supervisor member and Mr. David Granger of Gainesville. And supervisor member alternate, Luann Roberts from Genesee Falls. How many of those? Okay.
Make a motion, Dan.
All right. I have a motion by Supervisor Berwanger. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Finally, I don't know, I was confused, Cheryl, about where this discussion was going to occur for the,
I remember last month, I believe it was, NG asked to have a conversation with their committee about their committees.
right?
She did that this morning.
That happened this morning?
Yes, so I transferred that conversation, space allocation, for reporting back to the committee, if that had happened and what was said.
Okay, is that what I'm looking at?
That's what you're looking
All right, so this is the discussion based on a tour that we took in the fall around all the county buildings and looked at the various space issues associated with the county buildings. And so public health stood right out, and in fact, they were kind of bursting at the seams down there. They need space for a lot of different things. So these are the discussions. This is for the public health committee meeting. You were there this morning. You're aware of these bullet points, reallocating the clinic immunization area to be an employee break room. They virtually had no break room space. People were eating at their desks at the county health, so they needed space for that. Mike Adams Act is working with the Department of Materials and Cost for modifications. And I'm sure he can report more on that tomorrow in Public Works. They have no meeting space available even with the proposed renovations. And that was, I have actually had a conversation with Laura about this, and she needs to have space for them to have meetings, larger group meetings within the department, She has no space for that currently. And they could use some storage space and make a case to reclaim the space currently occupied by Veteran Services. There's no disrespect for Veteran Services intended here. Laura Bellucci had a conversation with Director Selena, and she was going to do that based on the last conversation that I had, just to reach out to Veteran Services and get, their input. So Chairwoman Ryan, you've had a conversation on alternate space for the Veterans Services has already begun. Solution is in the works. We hear more about that in the near future.
Yeah, actually, it's very beginnings of conversations. It may be a good thing to move them back into the village and into the A zone.
I would agree. So that was one of the things that
But it's
getting Veteran
very
Services, this is very preliminary to discuss where the appropriate location for them would be more centrally located. Okay.
Which is why I didn't elaborate.
What?
Which is why I didn't elaborate.
That's right. Okay. All right. And I'm sure we'll hear more about this tomorrow. Public Works, who might have that. All right. That covers it, I think. I have nothing else. Does anyone have anything else to come before planning? Yes, sir.
Just a question. It brought to my attention that the Silver Lake Association, back when one, the board of supervisors, the value of the lake to Wyoming County. You certainly know that lake is drastic need for dredging. We drastically need help. For years and years, they've been looking out all over. I gotta go back 15 years ago at least. We spent a whole day in Buffalo at the DEC office. They brought people in from all over the state, which didn't amount to hell days. And I know after my time, they kept on working at it, and as of today, you're nowhere. It's once in a while they think they are, but I know for the other.
No, it's in the process, Joe.
Well, I want to know, my question is, I understand for 20 years it's been in the process. Becky,
Well, no, yeah.
I want to know where are we and how strong is the county standing behind us?
We're standing.
I'm just asking.
We're putting up $65,000.
The county has invested $65,000 for the engineering work for the preliminary engineering work.
Because that's what we have to do, yeah.
That's what we have to do. The Silver Lake Committee has agreed on a specific plan. There were 3 different options for dredging. They have all agreed, the stakeholders have all agreed on a specific plan. So once we complete this engineering work, the next step for us is to go seek funding through either state or federal resources to get the work done.
And we've already sought the funding, and it's a pretty much together, and we can resubmit it.
Yes, we're shovel ready almost.
Who is the engineer?
Is it Tucker Patterson?
I think it's quite bad.
Yes.
The last time I recall a conversation,
Yes.
it was Tom Carpenter, was
Lauren Patterson.
I'm going to go into these.
Yeah.
I know that, okay.
Yeah, over the last couple of years, there was, IDA invested $25,000 to get the ball rolling. And then the county has invested $65,000 for the engineering study to be over.
Steve Perkins would be the guy.
He's got it.
Yeah,
He's all over this.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Steve. I talked to him a few times in my life.
because I think it was
And realistically, a lot of that whole west side of the lake really needs dredging.
Absolutely.
The west side, not just the northern corner,
Sure.
not just Jim Rick's corner, where Jim go. You go.
They want all.
Yeah, I think in our last water resource agency meeting, there was some discussion about modifying the plan to accommodate the west side of the lake, particularly in the inlet area up there, which wasn't included in the original dredging project. And a lot of these have to do with, from the standpoint of you're working with the DEC, what do you do with the soils, the dredging materials and so on and so forth. So that had to be worked out. But we're at the point now, I think, where as soon as we have this engineering work completed, we can go after funding and see what we can do to get the project moving.
But I'd like to see, if possible, that west side get dredged. Because I know I know how bad it's gotten in the last 20, 25 years.
Yep.
And just another short comment. Water is right now working on various issues. Some of the ditches, especially on the west bank,
Right.
going to the lake, entrapment to catch the silt.
Yes.
To catch a lot of the silt. And that's one position that, like Jake Kelly, who spoke here early today, they're working on it. They made out of concrete. And hopefully, some of that can be completed this year.
There's a lot of moving parts to this, Joe, in the standpoint that it is one of our top priorities in terms of getting the dredging project underway. But we also want to replace the bridge up there in the north end. Walker Road. Yeah, Walker Road Bridge.
There used to be a committee, I was on it, correct? Used to be a committee, but it's got to be dredged and then the outlet.
We're going to actually replace the bridge. We want to raise it up.
Raising the bridge.
Yeah.
Raise the bridge up and make it wider so that some boat traffic can get underneath that bridge potentially.
Yeah, we're going to take it later, or boat ride, canoe ride. We want to be able to get.
Where they're going, I don't know.
Yeah, pull back.
Going down to the dam, I guess.
Reach out to Steve Perkins because of the water resource agency. He's got maps, he's got plans, he's got everything.
Oh, yeah, he's got all the plans, all the options that were considered. And in fact, he attends the meetings and is really the county representative as the lead agency for this project. So we're moving, we just need to get us across the finish line.
I mean, don't mind me, I understand that, I know every word what you said, but I've seen moving parts for the last 20 years.
You'll be impressed. Talk to
But
Steve.
hopefully, this moves quite well.
Because I think once we have those engineering results, the next step is we've already contracted with Jeff Smith.
That's right. Yeah, we have a grant writer that we just identified to apply for grant funds as soon as we get this engineering work completed.
One of the grant writers the county used to use years ago.
Jeff Smith,
Yes.
Brennan brought in to get the original $350,000 for the water resource agency. He's over in Leroy.
Yeah. He knows where the money is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm very optimistic that we'll get this done.
It's a high priority.
It is a very high priority for
And
us.
even
Yeah,
is very optimistic.
right.
I'll be talking to you by the end of the year.
Okay, sounds good.
I love your comment.
All right. Anything else for planning? We're adjourned. Hallelujah. That's fun.
Long enough. Did you get charged?
Yes,
We had it long enough to get charged?
yes. It died halfway through ag.
I can, mine, I can make more, and I just can't make both.